David R. Porter allowed these people to create an arsenal of muskets taken from the Frankfurt Arsenal in order to protect themselves from a series of Philadelphia riots specifically targeting them in 1844. In the 1920s, the magazine The Good Citizen regularly published cartoons attacking these people, portraying them as a grotesque hand with long nails grabbing at the United States, as well as a tree being actively felled that must come down. School children are threatened by people of this type, represented as crocodiles rising out of the water in the Thomas Nast cartoon The American River Ganges. A rhetorical question embedded in a speech to the American Society of Newspaper Editors asked if a Jew can become mayor of Dublin, but one of these people cannot be president of the United States. In a slogan attacking James G. Blaine, this quality was paired with rum and rebellion. Al Smith and John F. Kennedy faced significant opposition from nativists because, for 10 points, they belonged to what faith? And the answer is Catholics. I could have also accepted Popism or Popery or Rum, Romanism, and Rebellion, but not Irish. A unique feature of this empire's flourishing shipbuilding industry was the practice of binding wooden planks tightly together with a rope to form waterproof hulls rather than using nails. Among the architectural wonders of this empire's capital city was the Vitala Temple, which included a massive stone chariot or ratha and curious musical stone pillars which emanate different notes with different timbers when struck. Domingo Pais and Fernão Nunes were two Portuguese travelers who described the massive scale of this empire after they visited it during the rule of its greatest emperor, Christian de Varia. After this empire lost the disastrous Battle of Talikata, it was rapidly dismantled, including the destruction of its prosperous capital city in modern-day Karnataka. The founding of this empire in the 14th century was the result of Hindu states resisting conquest by Muslim invaders from the north who had subjugated Delhi. For 10 points, name this medieval empire in southern India centered on the namesake, now ruined capital city. And that would be the Vijayanagara Empire, or the Karnataka Empire, or the Kingdom of Bisnagar. In his first book, San Jose State professor Todd Ormsby claimed that this city's distinctive culture developed because of its relative geographic isolation. Bar owners banded together to form the Tavern Guild in response to police raids on their establishments in this city. A popular performer in this city was known as the Nightingale of Montgomery Street after his rise to fame singing at the Black Cat Bar. A popular gathering place for transsexuals in this city's Tenderloin district was Compton's Cafeteria, which was the site of a 1966 riot after cafeteria staff called police to arrest rowdy patrons. Bathhouses were a common sight along this city's Castro Street, which was studied extensively by Randy Shilts in his book And the Band Played On. The first openly gay person to be elected to public office in the United States was assassinated along with the mayor of this city by Dan White. For 10 points, name this city whose homosexual population included city supervisor Harvey Milk. And that would be San Francisco. This country's government juiced up the economy with debt-enhanced Faro projects and the Correction for Inflation scheme. In this country, the October 8th Revolutionary Movement ransomed U.S. Ambassador Charles Burke Elbrick for 13 prisoners. This country's government responded to the march of the 100,000 student-led protests by cracking down on its restricted democracy with the Fifth Institutional Act. A focal point for dissent in this country was the death of journalist Vladimir Herzog in an O-Bahn facility. Incremental reforms in this country under the banner of opening and dissension gave rise to the oppositional slogan, "Direct Elections Now." The Johnston administration approved Operation Brother Sam, which backed a coup against this country's democratic Goulart government. From 1964 to 1985, this country was controlled by a military junta whose working-class opposition coalesced into the Workers' Party. For 10 points, name this country whose authoritarian government tortured future President Dilma Rousseff. And that would be the Federative Republic of Brazil. Samuel Eliot Morrison's history of this document argued that Article 3, which provided tax support for Protestant teachers of piety, slipped through without a valid two-thirds vote. An early draft of this document was rejected thanks to the arguments of Theophilus Parsons, whose description of the need for vigor, secrecy, and dispatch was paraphrased in Federalist. This document required governors to hold 1,000 pounds of property in accordance with its author's earlier thoughts on government. The slaves Elizabeth Freeman and Quock Walker won suits for freedom on the basis of this document's Declaration of Rights, which began, "All men are born free and equal." This document was the earliest to implement Montesquieu's separation of powers between an executive, an independent judiciary, and a bicameral legislature. It adopted many of its provisions from a political lobby that John Hancock nicknamed the Essex Junto. For 10 points, name this oldest continuously valid constitution in history, adopted in 1780 after being authored by James Bowdoin, Samuel Adams, and John Adams. And that would be the State Constitution of Massachusetts. This publication once wrote a story connecting Dennis Cardoza to the murder of a woman actually killed by Ingmar Guandique. Its founder, William Griffin, was arrested for lowering war morale due to his isolationist articles, and gangster Frank Costello may have bankrolled its later purchase. Roger Stone, who believes LBJ conspired to kill JFK, may have planted a recent article in this publication. The case of New York Times versus Sullivan was distinguished by the California Court of Appeals in a 1983 court case on this publication. For fanning the flames in the Chandra Levy scandal, this publication was sued by Gary Condit's wife. It was the first to announce both the Riley Hunter scandal and Bristol Palin's pregnancy, and was sued by Carol Burnett in a landmark 1983 case. For 10 points, name this publication that recently leaked a still unconfirmed Ted Cruz sex scandal. And that is the National Enquirer. This general's son became the first president of Tulane University after serving as an aide-de-camp. After refusing to fire in a duel with Felix Houston, this man lost command of the Army of Texas, where he would later serve as Mirabeau Lamar's Secretary of War. In this man's final battle, his staff included the recently deposed Governor Isham Harris. As a colonel, his forces took over for Edmund Alexander and successfully installed Alfred Cumming as governor during the Utah War, in which he camped at the burned-out Fort Bridger. This man's decision to send reinforcements resulted in disastrous losses at Fort Donelson, after which he concentrated forces at Corinth. This man was fatally shot in the leg near the peach orchard in what Jefferson Davis called the turning point of the Confederacy's fate. For 10 points, name this Confederate general who commanded the entire Western Theater and died at the Battle of Shiloh. And that would be Albert Sidney Johnston. One politician of this surname had a brother who mounted a camera belonging to Bob Inman on his den wall after it was left behind when a helicopter crashed in his front yard trying to gain footage for an attack ad. A female politician with this surname was succeeded by Albert Brewer after she died of uterine cancer. In various speeches, a man of this surname blasted pointy-headed intellectuals who can't park their bicycles straight, and claimed that the only four-letter words hippies didn't know were soap and work. The so-called guru letters revealed that a man of this surname corresponded with the theosophist mystic Nicholas Roerich. That man with this surname gave the Century of the Common Man speech and attained his highest post by succeeding a man called Cactus Jack. That man was also shot in Laurel, Maryland. That man was also shot in Laurel, Maryland by Arthur Bremier and was the American Independent Party candidate in 1968. For 10 points, name this surname of a longtime governor of Alabama that supported segregation. And that would be George Wallace. Or Wallace is the one that it wanted, or Henry Agard Wallace, or Lurleen Wallace. According to Spanish folklore, a woman bet the devil her soul that he could not build this type of object in one night. Luckily for her, the cockerel crowed at dawn just before he finished. One of these, named for Buka, a ruler of the Vijayanagara Empire, is located in modern Hampi. David Johnston theorized that the Nazca lines are actually maps to Incan types of these objects, called pukoi. The chora bodies in Groma were used to keep these structures level. One of these, called the Gray Falcon, or Bosgadon Cameri, is named for the Emperor Valens and located in Constantinople. Vitruvius observed that these structures should be gradually sloped instead of using an elbow, and suggested using earthen instead of lead construction for them. Calcium carbonate often accreted on these structures, which include the Segovian one and the Pont du Gard. For 10 points, name these arched Roman water-carrying structures. And those would be aqueducts.